Good morning and welcome to another great episode of Money Truth Moments with Judy Copenbarger. I am Carlos Garcia, your host for this morning, and we have a lot to cover this morning. Welcome, Judy. Glad to see you're back.
Oh, yes. Good to be here. Nice to see you, Carlos, as always.
Yeah, tell us. I want to jump right into it. Tell us about all these great adventures you've been doing in this past few weeks. I know you've had speaking engagements. By the way, congratulations on being the #1 bestseller on Amazon for your book, Money, Truth, and Life. So great congratulations for that.
We're so excited. Thank you. And I'm so proud of our team for making that happen. You know, it's not just an author that makes a book go to #1. It's a whole team of putting together events and making sure we get the word out and making sure the publication is, worthy of #1. So we're very proud of our team and very excited to be that kind of an impact.
That's awesome. And folks, this is the book, the #1 best-selling book. So you guys need to get a hold of this book. It's a life-changing book. And we will talk a little bit about this book today as well, too. But please share with us some of the great things you've been doing this past week and some of the events you've attended.
Wow. Well, it's been a busy couple of weeks. It's like the pre-book tour. And what's so interesting about 2020 is normally I'd be flying to Atlanta and Chicago and LA and New York and Texas, but it's virtual this year. And that allowed me to have even more of an impact without the sleep deprivation. So I was able to do, 10, 15 events just in the last 10 days or so. So I've got a Les Brown event coming up, another one coming up, which is great. I was able to be a keynote at several events around the world, and especially around this country. But the visibility event, I was able to be part of that. And that one was wonderful because it was emerging speakers learning their craft and getting hands-on coaching around that, speaking for their business, things like that. I was able to be part of the Pipeline Summit, and Pipeline was for entrepreneurs that are mostly online these days, but they're 6- and 7-figure earners. And so they're not just startups, they're people that have a craft or a business that is very substantial, and they're just learning how to take it to the next level and scale. And so I love helping businesses scale. It's wonderful. I was part of a 3-day event and able to facilitate some great conversations in breakout rooms with the David Fagan conference, which was last week for 3 days. I was involved in one a few months ago. This one was just fantastic, over the top. Great people. I was involved with Kimberly Hopshide's event, Rocket Fuel for Entrepreneurs. And that's another one that just speaking and SEO and getting your message out on social media and just scaling your business. It was just amazing. That one was primarily women. And it was amazing to see these women from all over the world that are already very successful, just, notching it up and working together and joint venturing. I worked with Amy Walker and Stephen Walker on the Pipeline Conference. That one, I was able to do kind of several different angles to help them out and get the word out. And that was neat because if we have time a little bit later, I'll share about some takeaways from that conference with other people that are interested in publishing, which I'm kind of in the middle of that process. So that was great. And then I worked with Karen Strauss, publisher out of New York, who actually did my latest book. She was on an event that I was helping other people understand what they could do in terms of publishing and getting their word out. And then I had an interview with Pastor Brent Bailey out of Florida with an amazing church. It was just kind of an action-packed week last week, and it was book launch week. And so Thursday and Friday, we had an opportunity with Amazon to just kind of go big, and we hit it out of the park. So very excited. It's been a busy week or so, and I'm just happy to be here with you and back in my own studio.
Nice. Well, we're glad that you're back. I know you've gone through a lot with that too. And folks, thank you for joining us this morning. If you want to learn more about Judy, as always, please follow her at judycopenbarger.com. You can order your book as well from there. You can learn more about the book. And one of the things I wanted to also ask you is, I love the fact that you spoke to a lot of entrepreneurs, because there seems to be, with the current situation that we have, a lot of folks are becoming very creative as well too. What are maybe one or two things that maybe stood out for you that you're kind of seeing maybe a trend in what you experience with these folks?
Well, I think it's got to be the innovation. Well, I'd say two things: innovation and planning. So I just see people thinking about new ways to do old things and ways to take all the experience they have with their business and their clientele and offer new offerings, new ways to serve people that they can monetize, and they're being so clever about it and just offering value. I mean, there's so many people now offering value where before it was selling something. Now they just want to get out there and just make a difference. And then when you do that, you give it away, it always comes back, right? You don't have to worry about money, especially when you love what you do. And then I think the planning side, people that kind of fell into a business or inherited a business or just kind of did what they love and it kind of grew, without them trying. Now they have to try. So I see a lot more planning and intention going into the time investment, the capital investment, the joint venturing. Like, how can we be more efficient this time? They're planning more instead of just kind of growing. And that's really good to see. I'm a planner, so I really appreciate when people, actually have action steps. So those are probably my big takeaways from a lot of the last week or two of experiences.
Oh, that's awesome. And I know a little bit later on I'll ask you this, but I can't wait to hear also your takeaways from most of the women that you work with, the professional women as well too, which we don't get to hear a whole lot, sometimes as well. But so it's fascinating when you get a group together of amazing professional women just changing the world in the business area, right?
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
So hey, one of the things I was, folks, you got to get this book. So something that you have talked about in our previous chats as well too is the integrity wheel, and I'm wondering if you could touch on that for a moment for us, just for folks to get familiarized with what the integrity wheel is, and explain it to them a little bit.
Absolutely. It's interesting because this is from chapter 9 in Money, Truth, and Life, the book. And this came up over and over and over in the last couple of weeks for people who were just now being exposed to this work. The integrity wheel comes from a story that I share. And there's so many ways to share the story, but I use a bicycle wheel. So if I was holding a bicycle wheel, you'd see, and I think you can see on the graphic here, the outside where it says integrity, that's the tire where the rubber meets the road. Then you have all these spokes and they meet in the hub in the middle. And that's where you are. That's where your being is and who you are is. But you have all these aspects of your life that make you, your skill sets and your gifts and your talents and the way you manage every area of life. And the story goes, when you look at integrity, it's not integrity like telling the truth integrity. It's integrity like it's solid. It is what it is. So if this tire has spokes that have integrity, they are sound, they're strong, they're going to be able to manage the journey. If any of those spokes begins to bend or break, it compromises the journey. And at best, the journey will be cumbersome. At worst, you won't get there at all. You won't make it. So the idea is that your life is like this wheel. Every area of your life impacts every other area. So if you don't have integrity in, let's say, your business and work, you lose your job, maybe through no fault of your own or a health issue or something. Now you can't work. That's going to impact your relationships. It's going to impact your ability to influence the community or make a difference out there in the world. It might impact your health. Inversely, if you have a health issue, it might impact your ability to go to work and get money. It might impact your relationships. It might impact your ability to attend school, your intellectual development. So every area of life impacts every other area of life. And if one of them is compromised, everything can become compromised over time. You think about the show Hoarders, where people have too many things for whatever reason. And so they end up with just too much stuff. And sometimes it's not healthy. They don't have money. Their relationships suffer, all of that. But the inverse is true. If you add integrity, if you straighten a spoke, you're going to have things show up in another area of life that will surprise you. So maybe you pick up the phone and you make that phone call that you should have made long ago to that relative or that friend where there was a misunderstanding. and you put integrity back into that spoke and that relationship is healing, all of a sudden you have the creativity and the mindset to get this amazing idea for business, or the relationships are restored, or your health is restored, or maybe you start walking your dog and you get off the sofa, start moving your body, and all of a sudden you meet somebody at the dog park, that has this great joint venture idea. So every part of your life impacts every other. So my background is law, tax, money stuff, right? Financial. And so I've found time after time after time, when people put integrity into the spoke of finance, they get their financial house in order, they get their work life in order, they get their business humming the way it should, where it's seamless and effortless. When that happens, all the other areas of life are impacted positively. And then you just end up a little bit more whole, a little bit more full. And then you go to the next level with your life. So that's what this picture represents here. This is actually an illustration from chapter 9 in the book, Money, Truth, and Life. And it just shows you some of there's a dozen or so aspects of life and how they work together in the picture of a bicycle wheel.
What would you say is also, let's say for somebody that really has no financial background, a lot of us grew up with our parents not really teaching us the real way to finance money. It was always about, my dad was always big about, if you have $2, you put one away, you spend the other one. And that was his philosophy. You always save for a rainy day, And so I got some of that as well, but not to the level of what we're talking about here too. So my question to you is, for some of us who didn't really have a whole lot of, what's the word I'm looking for, education when it came to finances, growing up and all that, what would you say is maybe the key areas that we need to start? How to build this foundation?
Well, first of all, your father gave you a gift by teaching you the value of saving money. Many people, that's like fundamental. Many people never got that. And especially these days, there's so many folks growing up with affluence. Their parents did well, and so they grew up kind of entitled. And money just kind of falls, out of the wall at the bank, right? You just go to the wall and it just kind of shows up. Those are the kids and the young adults that I am concerned about, because they don't know how to manage it. They know when it's there, they can spend it and use it, but they can even go get it. They learn, they get degrees and MBAs, and they can go online and make money. I mean, it's easy to make money in the United States. So the money comes in, but they don't know what to do once they get it. And this is one of the things I talked about at some of these recent summits. These people are very successful. Now what do I do with all the chaos of this success?
Right.
Money's coming. How do I allocate it? So to answer your question, your dad taught you well to say, 50%, live off that. The other 50%, you're going to need it one day. And there's probably been times when you were glad that you had that saving strategy.
Yeah.
But how do you save it, and for when? So I've worked with clients over the years. Some of them do a great job saving, but then they never live. So they save and they end up with more and more and more. And maybe they have $1 million or millions in the bank, and they have a nice house that's paid off, but they're not living. They're not achieving goals. They're not enjoying relationships and all those other parts of life. They're afraid to update the bathroom, because it's going to be, and they have $3 million and they're afraid to spend $30,000 on the bathroom, right? Remodel. So it's a balance. You want to allocate the money for specific goals, which is part of our strategic planning work. So I have a goal for retirement income, keep my expenses going. I have a goal for a special anniversary trip or a family vacation. I have a goal to replace my vehicles every 3 or 5 or 10 years, because that's going to be an expense. Why not plan for it? It's going to happen. There's goals to maybe be able to join a golf club somewhere and have a membership,
Right.
country club or something, or to be able to take some fun trips every year to go see family or bring them in, or to meet up at the cabin or meet up at the beach or something. So when you have specific goals that you're saving for, you're still doing the same saving, and it might be that one out of every $2, 50%, but you allocate it toward goals. So when it comes time, now our 35th or 50th anniversary has come, we're ready to get everybody out to Hawaii for a couple of weeks. You have that money set aside because you've saved it, but it's earmarked. So it's not just
Right.
forever and ever, amen. It's also having it benchmarked. So when it's time, you can use the money that you've saved and grown guilt-free to achieve one of those most important goals in your life.
Yeah, and that's actually an excellent point, because I think part of that also upbringing for me was, even though my dad always believed in that too, he was one of those guys that also wanted just to keep putting away, growing it like that too, and never really enjoyed it too, which I also think is very important that you just brought up. And
Yeah.
it's a great point, because what's the point of working ourselves, to death if we're not going to enjoy what's here? We may be gone tomorrow, and yeah, it will be set for our families, but we never get to really enjoy that, as well too. So I think that's a great point.
Yeah, it's a balance for sure.
Yeah, and so I also want to share another quick story with you too, because the book itself has opened up a lot of um, just visions for me, things to remember as I'm going through the book now. Even talking about my dad, I'm actually starting to do some of the comparisons of the things that you're suggesting, and I'm thinking, well, maybe my dad did this, but in a different kind of way or whatever as well too. So for me, it's I want to see where all of this has taken place up until now. Obviously, now I'm getting better tools to be able to be more of following the integrity wheel, to be able to live that to the fullest as well. But I will share with you really quick, and this is on a side note too. My kiddo is about to turn 14, and him and his buddies decided to start their own entrepreneur business, which kind of shocked me, to be honest with you. So, they're starting to do this shoe resale stuff. Apparently, with teenagers and all that, it's a huge business.
Mhm.
So they're really into this stuff, and I've been taking the time and moment now to just guide him on how to do some of this business as well too. So what I wanted to share with you is the fact that we do, and you mentioned entrepreneurs, but you have a lot of young kids, a lot of young adults that are looking to start this as well too. And I think the integrity wheel is a good place to start, but I want them to also hear from you. What are some key steps that they maybe should be looking for as they're putting their feet in the water just for new business opportunities or adventures?
I love that question, and it's so timely. And it's funny because I have right here, I have a book for your son, and it has a note on it. Send it Carlos for his son, mail it by 7/25, because his birthday's coming up this next week, right?
That's right. Yeah.
This is a book I put together years ago with our children, and it was born out of necessity. So there was no way to answer the question you just asked. What can I do for my son? What can I do for my children? And this is designed for age 8 to 18. And how
Wow.
can I put something in their hands that will help them understand the value of writing a check, the value of, you go and you find a car and you barely can afford the car, but what about gas and oil and maintenance and tires and insurance and all the other costs that come with it? They don't know unless they've been through that, or they have a parent that's going to help guide them. They don't know that. Or when you get that first paycheck and there's all these little initials and money's missing, and you thought you earned $200 and there's 140, where did it go? Right? So this book
Right.
has that, and it's a workbook designed for kids 8 to 18 to work out with their parents. So it's got
Nice.
and the whole premise is we have this Techno Truth. That's the kids, their technology, and they're selling shoes and figuring out how to do stuff on Etsy and online and things like that.
Right.
And then we have our way, which was go to school, get a good job, make a lot of money, stay there a long time, get your pension, that kind of thing. So how do we bring those two worlds together? We wrote checks with pens and paper. Primitive, right?
Mhm.
They don't know
Yep.
what we're talking about when we say check. But what they need to understand is if they promise somebody money on Venmo or through a bank, draft or something, the money better be there. Otherwise, you're breaking the law, right? The money has to be there because
Correct.
you promised to give it to someone else. Like when we used to write a check, there'd be a bad check. So they don't
Mhm.
understand bad check, but they understand integrity and keeping a promise. So this book goes through that, and it's kind of stealth for these young people. It helps them come from a place that they're interested. What they want is they want a car, right? They want to have class. They want to be admired or respected. They want to have, let's see what else they need to have. Career. They want to have a good job that'll give them good money so they can, maybe work at home or be able to, take a lot of vacations. And then they want the cash. They want to be able to have choices with their money. So that's what it is: car, career, cash, and class. And
Nice.
it's how to get those things, but lessons to go through with their parents or their scout leader or their Awana leader or whoever is mentoring them to help them learn these principles. Maybe it's an older sibling that can help them. But anyway, I have it. It's funny because you asked about your son, and I've got this book that's on the way. It'll be in the mail in the next few days.
You're awesome.
So you guys can work it out together. But
that's great.
Yeah, to answer the question just real quickly about advice for like a young entrepreneur, go for it. Be innovative. Make sure you don't spend too much money to make the money. You don't want to spend $100 to make potential for 20. So a little like basic business planning, which you can help with. But just go for it. Feel free to make mistakes. If you have, I had a very entrepreneurial spirited son. He would pick up the hubcaps on the side of the road. He sold bows. He was the one that had the Gatorade in the water at all the soccer fields. And the kids really wanted. He made bank. And all of his friends made bank because they were around him. He's always had that entrepreneurial, how can I get money? He's a saver, but he knows how to acquire cash. And to this day, he's probably out earning us. And he works in his bunny slippers. I tease him all the time. He makes money online. And he's got all kinds of degrees. He's traveled the world, lived in many countries, and he works on the computer and just makes money. So I would say to tell him it's okay to make mistakes, learn from those, what didn't work, and then do it again. Don't ever let the balloon lose all of its air because it didn't work. Just do it again. Do it again. Because there's so many ways to make money here. So I'm very excited for him and for you to have a son that's like gung-ho. And I'm hoping that this book will really make a difference for you guys as well. It'd be fun to get your feedback later.
No, absolutely, and I really appreciate that too. It's going to be very interesting because for me, for example, like you just said, for us it was go to school, get a job, full-time job until pretty much you die. Yeah. So it was never in the cards to start your own business. No, that's not even an option. Yeah. So I'm trying to do everything opposite of the way I was growing up and be very supportive and all that too. A funny thing is that, and I'll just leave you with this because I know we sidetracked a little bit, but as he's making some of this money, he realizes, okay, you're spending money right now, but the money that you're getting back, it's not all profits. You got to look at your deductions, right? You spent this money for it. You had to spend money for shipping. You had to spend money for this. So all of a sudden, it's not this full amount. You start subtracting this, and it's like, oh, I didn't realize that. And the light bulb comes on, Yeah. So it's kind of cool. I look forward to this journey and just keeping track of how he's doing and share it here with you as well, too, for sure.
I love that he's thinking that way and starting that way and not even high school yet. That's brilliant. I love it. 13, right? Almost 14 next week, right?
Almost 14, yeah. So, and I figure with your book, with this book as well, too, I mean, this kid's going to be dialed in, and I wish this is the stuff we had growing up. But, like they always say, it's never too late. We're not too old either to start in the right path and all of that as well, too. So I appreciate your wisdom and always sharing that with us. I think it's very valuable because you do cover a spectrum of, not just adults, not only business folks, but you also have, in this case, you talked about kids, and now this can also help kids, get them in that right frame of mind, help parents too, who don't really have the correct answers or a good way to help out. So this is very valuable, and I appreciate you sharing that with everyone as well too.
I'm very pleased to make an impact.
Awesome. So, hey, I know we're getting close to the end of our show, and it wouldn't be a show also without our weekly challenge, correct?
That's right.
That's right, folks. It's that time now. Money, Truth, and Moments Challenge. So what have you got for us this week?
Well, last week we were a little bit technical. We did a deep dive with investments and pulling out the investment options that you have, taking a look at them. What can we do better? What should we be looking at with our employer? So we did some of those things. This week, it's not going to be so much about a technical issue. It's not going to be trusts or insurance or investments or retirement, things like that. This week, the challenge is right here, 2020. If you got to do something over, if you got a do-over for 2020 financially, what would be the one thing that comes to your mind that you would want to do over or do differently or have really prepared for? What's that one thing? And I encourage you to write that down. Maybe you'll think of a couple things that, boy, I wish it hadn't have gone that way. But if there's something you could do over financially for 2020, what would that be? And then the second thing is, what action can you take? So if something like COVID happened again, or if we had another financial shock to our economy, or if there's a recession, we're not in a recession, but if something like that happened, how could you be prepared for that so you wouldn't feel like that would be on your do-over list in a future year? Number one, what would you do over for this year? Number two, how can you do something more, better, different to prepare for next time? That's the challenge.
That's a great challenge. That is a great challenge, folks. You've heard it. So make sure that you share with us, put it on the chat, put it on as you're going through the week. We can share with this out with you guys next week as well. So thank you, folks, for joining us. If you haven't followed Judy, make sure that you visit her website at judycopenbarger.com. There's a wealth of information, a lot of free videos, a lot of great content that you need to get a hold of. She's on social media. She's on LinkedIn. She's on Facebook, folks. Again, make sure that you are following her hashtag Judy Copenbarger as well, too. So, Judy, we're getting towards the end of our show, and you've had a busy couple of weeks. What have you got coming up also?
Well, I mentioned I've got that Les Brown event coming up. Mm-hmm. I've got another event with Amy Walker coming up. It's a faith-based summit about business for high achievers. We've got the Messenger Cup coming up, and that's a live one out in Colorado. That's in 3 weeks. There's a couple other things in August. I'll have to get back to you on that. Maybe next week we'll lay out the schedule. But all of these dates are on my social media. So LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all of that. So feel free to go there. If you're interested in the Money, Truth, and Life book, which I believe is still on sale for another couple of days, Amazon #1 bestseller. You're welcome to pick up the book. If you're interested in a deep dive financially, you can go to the online mastery program, Money, Truth, and Life. And that, again, through social media, you'll find a link there. If you go to judycopenbarger.com/truth, the word truth, that'll get you to a landing page to explain what's in that course and what you'll learn and all the tools and resources that you need there. So those are my parting words. I look forward to seeing you all next week.
Awesome, Judy. As always, thanks so much for taking the time to be with us, folks. If you are just joining us, please make sure that you share out the stream. You also share out the replay as well, too. There's a lot of great content and information, so you don't want to miss it out. So keep in mind, we're here every Tuesday morning, 8 o'clock, Money Truth Moments with Judy Copenbarger. Follow her at judycopenbarger.com. And thanks again, Judy. And I look forward to seeing you next week.
My pleasure. Have a great week.
All right, you too.
Thanks.